All right, comic geeks, welcome back to our adventure across the Massiverse. Today we are diving in to our next chronological book, which is The Dead Lucky Volume 1. This is
Is it
coming to us from
chronological or is it release order?
chronological to the release.
Yeah. So not chronological. Release order.
You know what? You know what? We are 28 seconds in behind the curtain. Jay and I both up late, both at the end of our
We're
ropes.
getting we're getting in
Not
the
the end of
like
our ropes. We're both
pre-Christmas season
frayed.
recordings, so
Hmm. Hmm.
we're gonna be we apologize.
We apologize. We're sorry. This is coming to us from writer Melissa Flores, artist Carlo Magno. The colorist is Mattia Ianco, with an assistant colorist on issue 4 in Luco Mattioni, and the letter is, as with like all Massive books, Becca Carey.
And this is another Power Rangers writer, right? This is another one of those roping in the Power Ranger writers, I believe.
I believe you. I'm sure it is.
I'm like
Look,
90% sure.
the
I did
Massiverse
not check.
is
It is.
just
I,
Power Rangers OCs. It's great.
right.
I love it.
Yeah.
But the Dead Lucky focuses on our titular Dead Lucky character. I guess she's not really titular. She calls herself Dead Lucky at the end. Uh,
I think the thing is like it's to me like she calls her and
her
her ghost
platoon, yeah.
the Dead Lucky, like they
Yeah.
as a unit
She is
are.
one of the Dead Lucky. But
Yeah.
her name is BB. We open our story on BB in therapy. We immediately learn that she is uh, having delusions of being a superpowered menace. She's telling her therapist that she has this dream that she has superpowers, uh, which her therapist is very interested in, and is also very interested in the fact that BB talks to herself. It seems to be some sort of like compulsion-y type thing where she doesn't seem to really have control over it. She'll just speak as if to someone, even though there is no one there.
Which
She
interestingly
goes
the
through
book
her.
kind of uses as a
Mhm.
way to
Oh yeah,
do traditional captions as like speech bubbles instead.
which is a little funky because they also do traditional captions.
Yeah, sporadically.
Yeah,
Um but yeah, it's an interesting way to do it.
yeah.
I definitely like it was. I think it was a hard transition for my brain at points where I
It was,
like
I think, for most of the first issue, I didn't love it, and then as we got
yeah
more of a look at her powers, I was like, okay, I buy into
yeah
it.
yeah. But,
Uh,
like in the first issue, I was like even though it was led in by this scene that literally explains it completely of like she talks to herself in the next scene. I was so confused of like I was like, wait, is she like actually saying this here, or is this meant to be her recalling this to somebody and like just putting in the speech bubbles on her?
mhm.
And again, it's probably my fault because they explained it
No,
right
no, yeah.
before this, but it was a hard transition for my brain.
But that transition takes us into the next scene where Bibi is leaving her therapist's office, and we see that she wanted to come home when she was away at war, and home doesn't look like home anymore. It is San Francisco, but absolutely plastered with uh, ad space branding, whatever you want to call it, for a company called Morrow. And she immediately has an interaction with a Morrow representative who is walking around just in public with a massive assault weapon and demands her ID and to like check her identity. So we immediately get a sense of this like dystopic future of San Francisco, which is also not. It's not what BB remembers. It's not the
To
home
be
that she
fair,
wanted to come
just
home
to
to.
because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always have to be pedantic when we're doing these reviews.
Of course.
Like uh future aesthetic, but it is the present. This is taking place
Yes.
in the
Yeah,
present.
yeah, yeah.
Importantly for like the Massiverse connections that do actually come
Yes.
in this book.
They
Interestingly,
do, yes, our wonderful baddies. But we see her interact with this like essentially like peace officer type of person who's like, "Oh, you're a veteran, go ahead," but like demands to know her business in being here. She continues to monologue to herself about her feelings about her role in the world now that she's not a soldier anymore. Uh, we see that she doesn't think of herself as a hero, which I think is obviously this isn't Radiant Black Massiverse. Like it's not a Radiant Black book. This isn't one of our Radiants. But it's interesting to have Radiant Black where we have such like a like good superhero story, and then to have her whole thing be like, I'm not a hero. And it's not one of those like it's not one of those like, oh, I'm not gonna call myself a hero, but I'm clearly a hero. It's like, oh, she is a little more complicated than that. Like we know that she was in a war and that her tank exploded, but she also talks about like killing people, and that's not
Yeah, I
a
need backstory.
normally.
Why? I thought you were talking about like in the book, she's very much just kind of
Oh
like
yeah, of course, yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't realize you were going backstory there. I was like, I don't know that I agree. She's more complicated than just a hero. Is
No,
like
no, no,
in her
she's
career.
certainly like at this point before she like
Yes,
becomes
yes,
superhero. Yeah.
absolutely.
Uh yeah, her thing is like I was a soldier, but I was never a hero. And she's not a soldier anymore, so now she's nothing. She's just here at her family's fusion Chinese Mexican food restaurant, which
You
this
forgot
made me so
it's a
hungry.
triple fusion. You
Yes, wait,
left out the American barbecue.
yes, American barbecue. Uh, every single time they talked about food in this book, maybe it's because I had a real quick dinner, but I was like, ooh, I really want to order food now.
You want that triple fusion?
Dude, I would eat the fuck out of Triple Fusion at this exact moment, absolutely. But we see there is a cop hanging out outside and a Morrow officer, representative, on the inside trying to convince BB's parents to be a part of their relocation program, which is one of the ways that they're helping to protect and keep people safe in San Francisco because there's a nasty gang called the Salvation Gang that has been causing trouble in districts. BB's father immediately asserts that actually it's the presence of Morrow that creates the presence of the Salvation Gang, and her parents are having none of this. They aren't even considering this relocation game. Honestly, amazing parents. I quite liked them. They're
Yeah,
not
no,
like
I
super
thought they were
central.
fairly well done.
Yeah.
It's a strong introduction for them too to just have
Mhm.
like this strong like we care about where we live, we care about this restaurant deeply. It's like it's a nice, immediate, easy, quick characterization that makes you like immediately know what they're about.
And I feel like it's a place where a lot of like kind of go-to narratives would be like, oh, maybe they're thinking about moving, and like because she really
Or like
wants to
one
like
of
hold
them's
on to this
pushing
people
for it, you
exactly,
know?
and
Yeah,
like it's BB who's kind of like, no, we need to stay, but no, they are very much like they are anti-Morrow, which I
yeah,
thought was actually a really fun bit of this book. Is that most people we see are anti-Morrow.
yeah.
Like we have the one representative who's like, no, their way is the way. And we have the very obviously evil guy. But everyone else is like, no, fuck these guys. They suck, like, deeply. Which I thought was a really good uh, kind of bit of originality for it. Because I think most of the time in a dystopian, like, uh, capitalist crack, not what I'm looking for, like corpo future thing. It's a lot of like, oh yeah, we all just live under these conditions, yada yada. But no, in here everybody fucking hates them. Like from the
Yeah, I think
bottom
part of
to
that's
the top.
probably like due to the fact that again, this isn't like this is like year zero of like a
Yeah,
dystopian future type thing. Like
exactly.
this was just put in. They've all have lived without it. It's not like they've
Mhm.
been brainwashed through like generations or anything. It's like no, this just like happened, and now they're all like, what the fuck you doing?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of stories that tell this type of story happen like hundreds of years in the future. So it's cool to see that ground zero perspective on it. But yeah, we see BB comes home and is listening to her parents absolutely tell off this Mara officer, and then she starts to text the X. Her phone contacts stressed me out so much. She had like nicknames for everyone, and I'm like, no, what are
It's
you
one of those
doing?
things where if anybody sees your phone, you're fucked. But then also you realize that she just says her inner thoughts in front of everybody, so like she's probably
She's
already
fucked
just fucked.
anyway.
So yeah,
But
it
like,
really
it's
doesn't
such
matter.
a decision to put someone in your phone as the X or hot
That's
cop.
something I would do. Is the
Oh
like I
god.
would not do some of the other ones that she has, but like the X I do because it's like you're never actually gonna send anything to them, and if you get something, you're gonna want that immediate
Okay,
like fuck
except
off
this is
thing.
one of her best friends.
Yeah, yeah. Which is also we'll talk about that because that I
Yeah.
think that was an interesting
hmm
choice to certainly be talked about. But I'm
but
gonna
yes,
let you keep going
she
because I
sends
think
some
place.
cryptic messages back and forth with the X, and then we actually move away from BB for a second, which we do a few times in this. We have a kind of B plot main character who is, I believe, Officer Maria. I think her name is Maria.
Is that correct? It might be correct.
It
It's
might be
uh,
Officer Garcia. I'm sure
okay.
she has a first name.
I'm sure she
Um,
does. I don't know that
we'll
we get
find it
it often.
eventually.
There's a
Uh,
lot of like in the opposite of Joseph's favorite thing. There's a lot of not calling people by their names in this book, and like
Case in point,
using
phone contacts being the X instead
yeah,
of
yeah, but
Eddie.
also like the like she's later referred to as like captain multiple times, and I'm like,
hmm
there's just a lot of not using people's names, and it's like you know whose name is used a lot? The X's, funnily enough. Like I think Eddie is the most used name in this book by far.
Maybe so,
Um,
yeah.
but anyway,
Um, but in any case, the Morrow rep who had been talking to BB's parents joins her quote unquote babysitter back in their squad car, and they have a little back and forth where it doesn't seem like uh, Garcia is like a huge fan of Morrow. She's like complaining about her assignment. She's clearly not bought in on the whole thing. Um, and they drive off, which is when we reunite with Bibi, who meets up with Eddie, the ex, who has built her an entire ass mech.
a giant mech, like this
Giant mech.
massive mech.
Which,
Yeah.
like, what a character introduction. Like, in a feasibly modern time, to be like, this 16-foot tall mech just hanging out. Like, this is rad. I love that you've built this, Eddie. Uh, we don't get a lot of context as we then immediately see her kind of discharge some electricity powers,
Yeah,
which gives
yeah.
us our first hint that she, does in fact have these powers that she was telling her therapist she had a dream about. Um, and we cut to the streets of San Francisco. We see
Two
these creepy
streets.
Mario bots that have like big security camera heads, essentially, that are immediately like
He's dying. So okay, no, she's back. She's back. We're good.
just dying for a second. It's fine. I've been talking a lot today. But we cut to the streets of San Francisco where Garcia and the rep are chit chatting, and we see the bots are leaving. There's some sort of emergency that the bots are going after because, the Salvation Gang is striking. They're basically like your classic freedom fighter sorts where it's like explosions in the street. Classic Radiant Black, like neon streetwear vibes. It's very Radiant Black, which is a compliment. I enjoy their designs a lot.
It is a little bit more. I will say, like these designs stand out. Not like specifically theirs, because I think her design is much more like their
Mhm.
stand out of being much more like fabricy and like actually like clothing based than most
That's
Radiant
fair.
Black and Massiverse designs, which feel much more like the kind of Power
Like
Rangery
polymer
stuff.
suit,
Yeah, exactly. Whereas theirs are like, oh, they have like bagginess and they have like, different
hoods,
textures.
but they've got all of this like green gamer light
Oh yeah, no, the color's still there. The like
accessorizing,
bright neon colors of the
mhm,
Massiverse is still there
which
in full
is
force.
delightful. But yeah, they immediately land amid a series of explosions and are like, "Don't worry, we're gonna save you, San Francisco." We see that the Morrow rep is not at all concerned with the safety of civilians, or even, frankly, the health of the Morrow bots, the big robots or anything. She's like, just get me the fuck out of here. Uh, which was a good call, because then our giant mech comes in and just crushes the cop car they were just hiding behind, because BB is a little wild. She says she's sorry, but I don't believe her. But this is, I don't think we saw it before. We see her address Ghost, the robot, the mech,
Yeah.
and it actually responds, which is our first hint of like what's going on with BB and these voices. We get some classic banter going into a fight where they go back and forth. BB is showing off essentially what her mech can do, and then gets in a little over her head as they pull out a full ass RPG and partially blow her bot up. We see the absolute, like, I was gonna say classic, but I don't know that it's that classic, but like injury in fight transfers into kind of PTSD moment. And we see these ghostly figures talking to her, addressing her as captain. It's like, okay, pieces are coming together on this, which she then uses to fuel herself emotionally. And she bursts out of the mech and just does a bunch of electricity powers kind of floating in the air, and then takes control of her mech remotely, which also shoots electricity powers, scaring the ever living fuck out of the Salvation Gang and kind of ending this encounter. Uh, Eddie, her pal, rushes up. And she's still full live wire mode. And as soon as he touches her, he passes right the fuck out. Like, she zaps him hard. Our good old cop friend comes in, goes to make an arrest. And then I think is moved by the fact that BB is more concerned about her friend than herself. A kind of direct opposition to the Morrow officer, who is like, screw everybody else, just keep me out of here. And so Garcia lets her go. She full, like, sees her full in the face, and so definitely has a beat on like her identity. Not that she knows who she is yet, but like can recognize later, and lets her boogie. That was a fun fight scene. I enjoyed the um I think it was a really good introduction to the mech itself and her powers within it, because she kind of powers the mech and she has these little controls, but you really get the sense after that like big RPG shot in the fight that the superpower of it all, like her superpower isn't having the mech. Her superpower is controlling the mech from outside it. That's what makes her kind of unique and cool and rad. How did you feel about the first dose of combat in this book?
I love it, actually. Like,
That's
kind of
fair.
inversely to you, I don't think it does as good a job as you said of making really clear how her powers work and how they work with the mech. Like, your only indication of her like using the mech remotely is basically it shooting electricity once she's out of it, which I don't think is the clearest thing in a big page of her using like electricity powers. That there's like the one panel of the mech also doing it. I don't know if that's the most clear thing of like a
That's fair.
remote thing, and I also just didn't think the like panel to panel of the action was amazing a lot of the time. Like, I think there's certain
That's what I
things
wanted
where
to
like
go in on.
there were kind of too many panels
Hmm.
for certain moments, and then other things were like really montage. So I think it like couldn't decide if it wanted to be a montaged fight scene or not, which I
Right.
think made this fight scene a little rough. I think when we get to the end of the series, the fight scenes get a little bit more like understanding what they want to be, but this
Hmm.
felt like it was too much in both column A and column B of a montage and a more like intimate fight scene. So yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
love
that
this
was
fight scene.
what I wanted to hit on,
There
is
is
that
the
I
one really
don't think
nice
there's.
panel of her coming out of the mech with like the lecture. Like, the my point is there's
Yeah,
some nice
yeah.
panels in there, but yeah, I didn't think it was the strongest fight scene of the series
Yeah, I
by
like the
far.
way that it looks, but like you're saying, the actual like continuity of the fight, not phenomenal.
Yeah,
Like we we talk all the time on this podcast about like moments of impact and shit. You really don't get a reared back fist and then a hit. You get
No, and something that I
things
really
happening.
dislike is that like they end one page with an RPG fire and then like start the next page with it hitting. I don't think that's a good way to do a like page end into the next page in a fight scene.
Mhm.
Like I think you
Like
want the
you want
hit to
that
be
to
the
be
end
on
of
the
the
same
page.
page.
Yeah, yeah, you want the hit to be the end of the page. You don't want a hit to be
Mhm.
like a big hit like that to be the beginning of a page. Like that's just a
Right.
weird pacing thing. So yeah, that felt really weird to me. And like that's kind of like how some of the things were in this fight scene. It's not
Mhm.
awful by any stretch. It's just like,
Right.
especially
Yeah.
because I do think the series has better fight scenes. Like this one
Mhm.
was off to me, especially in the Masterverse, which tends to do so well in fight scenes. So yeah,
Yeah, I think another interesting thing about it is that there's not the sense of like rubber in the fights in this book that we get with a lot of Massive Verse books. Like a lot of Massive Verse books, it's like, oh, I'm gonna punch you through a building, and like that's just how that works. Other than notably when a building fell on Nathan, rest in
no,
pepperoni.
no.
Um, the fights when things get hit here, I think for the most part, it feels like a big deal. There's a bit of a sequence towards the end of the book where there's like a lot of blaster shots going off, and that feels a little less so. But we do still in that get like a very real human injury. And I think that that's a really nice touch to have in a book where the main character like had been in war, like in like real war, where it's like,
That
okay,
does,
yeah,
yeah.
having there be like a groundedness to the violence and the injuries makes sense when BB's our main character.
I agree. I am gonna cut you off because we need to keep moving. Like this
Yes,
is we
zooming.
are going
You're
real
right.
long for issue one of six here, so I'm
I
gonna
feel like that's just how our
in,
bonus episodes end up going.
but I'm gonna insist we keep moving because we
Yep,
cannot keep this pace
we're zooming.
for
We're
the
zooming. We're
rest of
zooming.
the yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, our lovely rep comes asking around about leads on who this mysterious electricity woman can be, and Garcia, based as hell, doesn't give BB up. We see BB visit Eddie in the hospital. Eddie's girlfriend Georgia comes in, and BB gets to have a classic little loner moment. And then, like, a little not loner moment when she sees that Eddie has left her a little gift. He's, like, upgraded her dog tags in some way that helps her weird ghosts come out, which shows us both her sick costume and we see, like, the electricity manifest as kind of people near her,
Yeah, like
which
silhouette
ends off issue one for
electricity
us.
silhouettes. Is that even a
Yeah.
silhouette? I don't know
Kind
what
of.
it is.
It's like the
Yeah,
opposite of a silhouette
yeah,
of light.
yeah, yeah.
Um, we open on the next issue. We see that Morrow is canvassing the streets. They're looking for any sort of lead on the electricity superhero, and the city of San Francisco has said, "No, we like her. We're not telling you jack shit." We see more of Garcia having second thoughts about Morrow and kind of speaking out against them, which our rep is not pleased with. And
No.
then we jump into what I think feels like part of a montage where it's like, oh, all of a sudden we see BB in action as her superhero self, like saving civilians, fighting off the Salvation Gang, who this time around have brought out a giant mechanical bull to fuck with her mech, which more or less does her job and knocks her into a trauma spin where she has a flashback to being in a bar with one of her platoon mates as he says something very specific. It's like when all fists in or something.
All hands all the time.
All hands all the time because
Yeah.
they are a platoon. They will stick together. If one of them is fighting, all of them are
He's
fighting.
oh man, he has a name and
He's
now
Ghost.
he's Ghost.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So when
I was
she's
where was say what was and now I don't even remember the other
it
one
was
because I had the
Ghost,
wrong.
Tanky, and one more.
It's gonna come to me
Yes,
because it was just in my head a second before you said
that's
Ghost.
so
It was
fair.
the one that I was thinking of, and I'm like, it's the wrong one.
It's the wrong one.
Yeah.
But we see that the kind of moment of flashback has given enough time for Morrow to roll right the fuck up. But luckily, BB has made it the fuck out of there. So Morrow basically just arrests the gang members, and she gets off scot free. We see that these ghosts are kind of more present with us now as she is taking orders from tourists in her parents' restaurant. And the ghosts are like over the shoulder, kind of being a part of her emotional state, like glaring at people, flaring up when she gets angry. We also see that her
Just
mom
just
is,
constant when it comes to serving the tourists.
you know what? Honestly, fair. It do be like that sometimes. Um, I too am constantly filled with anger and ghosts.
And
Uh,
ghosts. You want to
and
tell us something,
ghosts.
my
Yeah,
cutie?
why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean? I haven't introduced you to my ghosts.
I,
Uh,
uh, I'm not gonna touch that with 10-foot pole.
okay, fair enough. Uh, it's very sweet. Phoebe's mother is concerned about her because she's like covered in bruises and stuff. And in classic like mother fashion, is like, "Oh, you're talking to Eddie? Are you guys back together?" And I like all the scenes where the parents show up. They're brief, but I feel like they have very strong characterization on the
Yeah, I
page.
think they did a good job of giving them very
Yeah.
good immediate. I talked about it in the first scene, so I'm not going to ramble on
Mhm.
it again too much.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a very good thing again here of like just like they have a very clear position, and they do a good job of establishing that each time they're in a scene.
Yes. But then we jump back to our B plot where Officer Garcia is getting chewed out by her superior officer because of her shit talk about Morrow. Why she would do that in front of a Morrow rep, who knows? Uh,
Who
it's a
knows?
actually I kind of get it. We get a sense of like them building a friendship and like a kind of rapport, uh, though it's more one sided. Uh, but
Yeah,
weirdly, I feel like the side kind of flips back and forth. As they're like, wait, I'll be your friend. Wait, I don't like you. Ooh, I'll be your friend. Stop being
yeah,
idealistic.
fair.
Uh, but yeah, poor Garcia is, her life is threatened in this scene, which is fun.
We also importantly found out that she had been demoted, and that's
Yes,
another
yeah.
important.
Because of a moral stance that she took. It
Yeah,
seems that her previous partner almost killed someone, and she reported that, even though that's not how you like play the game. So we get the sense of her moral compass and why she would. That this is a continued behavior for her to dislike Morrow, or like a tracked behavior that makes sense. Our good pal BB goes to visit her robot to make some repairs, and Eddie is there. He's out of the hospital, good for him, and he confronts her about the fact that she's kind of bonkers, frankly. Like, she's talking to herself. She has electricity powers. She asked him to build her a like illegal mech, and he loves her dearly, but she needs to like keep him in the loop and actually let somebody help her because she's not helping herself. She has like zero sense of self preservation. Um, and so they have a big
I don't know
spat.
that I'd say zero sense of self preservation as much as literal death wish.
Yeah, that works too. That
Yeah,
he's more
yeah,
accurate. Like, she very much wants to be dead. She says this
yeah. She
multiple
wants to
times.
die.
In fact, the title of the book refers to something that I believe one of her captains had said to her
Yeah,
before, where it's
where the
like
lucky
the
are the ones who die. Yeah,
exactly. And her whole like a big part of her character is that she is this person who survived. She wasn't lucky enough to die, so now she has to go on living, having seen all that she's seen and experienced all that she's experienced. But they have a big fight. She is a dick to him, which is very rude because he built her a whole ass robot and just wants her to stay safe. Um, and she's got her angry little ghosts behind her to back her up, even though she shouldn't have backup right now because she's being mean to her good boy. Uh, we see the friendship of our Morrow agent and Officer Garcia blossom a little bit more, possibly into a romantic venture, but not quite. Why did my global comics just die on me? Oh god, motherfucker. Um, but yeah, they are chit chatting about the various ways that the lovely institution of Morrow exists in the world, and why, like, if they were not going to, or if like the systems in control at the moment weren't going to protect people, then they should try new systems, like the Morrow system. Uh, I'm pulling it
Yeah,
up.
she's importantly like trying to make Officer Garcia like an offer to join the
Yes.
Moro company and potentially also join her in a romantic relationship. It's kind
It's
of unclear.
it's purposely unclear. Garcia
Yeah,
is
yeah.
also confused, which adds to the just absolute vibes of our agent. I feel a little bad that I don't know our agent's name, but she's a bad guy, so she doesn't
Do
get a
we?
name.
I feel like we probably get her name like once, but it's
We
definitely
almost
not
certainly do.
repeated very
Yeah,
often. Again,
like you
this is
said, it's
why I
not a
like
big
books that
name
repeat
repeating
names
book.
like fairly often. Like you don't gotta
No,
do it a ton, but I feel like it should be said at least once per issue. Like
that's so fair.
that's a little thing that I prefer.
He
Um,
deserves once per issue name drop. We all deserve a once per issue name
yeah,
drop.
it's like
Um,
the Hunger in the Depth. As great as that book is, like half the time, like 80% of their names
Kalantara,
do not
that's
appear in a
it.
given issue, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's rough. But then we see BB is out in the rain trying to fix her robot on her own, which is a bold move because it's raining and she has electricity powers, and also Eddie is the tech guy. The As she argues with the robot that isn't talking to her, because maybe in fact it knows that she was being mean to Eddie. She accidentally electrocutes it and electrocutes herself, which knocks some fucking sense into her as she goes and apologizes to Eddie and gives him kind of the man in the chair status. She wears a little earbud for him. Relationship repaired. We love to see it.
Very
Uh,
weird. Is this the proper time to talk about the Eddie like
sure.
relationship
Yeah.
replacement? I
So
feel like it's weird. I feel like it's weird to place him as like an ex who also has a significant other. While not to get too ahead of ourselves, you're going to start building up a different romantic relationship for her. Like it just felt like a weird thing.
yeah,
And I'll point out later like the one reason I think they did it for like one
mhm.
very specific thing later. But like I thought it was weird because like I think for the majority of the series it's just confusing as to why he had to be an ex.
Yeah, and like I understand the like kind of they explain why he's the ex later, like the way that her schedule is as a military officer, and like specifically a sort of black opsy one, like classified information and all that. That is a stressful thing to put on a relationship, and I don't know. I feel like it wasn't necessarily necessary,
Because I
but
don't
I
think
get
that
why they did.
that moment really ended up being that important.
Yeah,
And also, like, I
exactly.
just end up feeling like they write his significant other in a way that like she's kind of just there, and she's like that, like I see no problem with this at all. I'm gonna be so nice to everyone and helpful, and I'm like, I feel so bad for you.
Right?
Like,
For
here they are
Georgia.
talking about how they still like love each other, but like even though they're being like not, we'll get
Yeah.
there. But like,
And like
it's
I don't think there's even like
unnecessary.
a moment of like attempted infidelity or anything. Like it's it's a very weird thing because they established that they were like childhood best friends and that they're very important to each other, and that's a very important type of relationship to hold on to. But it's a weird, like it's almost like too real of a thing. It's like I get that this could happen in real life, but I feel like if you're putting it in a narrative, it should be a part of the narrative. You know what I mean?
Oh, will happen in real life? What is not going to happen in real life is his significant other acting like that toward it. Like that is not going to be that chill and that happy go
That's
lucky.
fair. But to continue
Yeah.
zooming, because I think
Yes.
these are also chunky. I think they're 35-page issues, which is
Yeah,
part
it's a
of this.
chunky little
It's
series.
a chunky little series,
Yeah.
which I think the Massiverse does. Wasn't Inferno Girl Red also chunky?
I think these are. I'm looking at them now. They're 28 pages each.
Mm,
So not that much chunkier than a normal issue. But these are kind of like dense. They have
they're
like a decent
dense
amount of text per
issues.
page. Is
Yeah.
like the thing with this. But yeah, I think some of the Master is like I wouldn't. I don't think Rainy Black is particularly chunky or dense.
No, but it does now release 2 issues for every issue.
But we're not there yet in our
We're not there yet.
Massiverse
That's right.
readings. So yeah. Anyway,
But to
keep
bring
going.
us back to the Deadlucky, Dear Officer Garcia has come to warn Bibi at the restaurant that the Morrow Company is after her. Like they're specifically looking for her and probably want her dead. And then we see an ominous little like facial recognition thing going on in Chinatown. But that takes us to issue 3, where we have a very cookie cutter futuristic ad for Morrow, and we learn that the CEO of Morrow is not into that. Which I thought was a really fun angle to take on like the tech CEO. He's like, I don't care if they like us. We have the power to like enact
Like,
martial law.
is fair. Like the idea of
Yeah,
like him still can't win. Like it's like he's already got what he wants. Like he's already
right?
in control. Like why should he give a shit at this point? So like I thought that was nice too.
Right? Like I feel like a lot of times there's this kind of untouchable sense with these like CEO characters where like their power is master manipulator. It's like, yes, I'm gonna make everybody love my company. And he's just like, no, I don't get this is a stupid ad. Why do we need ads? We have robots with guns. And I'm like, all right, fair play, dude. They do a very good job of being like, yeah, no, this evil, big evil. Big evil energy, real B. We have that interaction with him. We get to know. I think his name is Morris. We get to know Morris a little bit more, and then we get the actual conversation between Garcia and Eddie and Bibi, where she explains everything that's going on. This is where we get our first hints that Bibi might be into Garcia because Eddie calls her out for like immediately trusting hot people, which is a very funny trait for her, a very rugged, like PTSD ridden military captain to have. It's like, Eddie, when has this happened before? Like, what?
Yeah, I feel like that's also like you don't get the vibe that she's like
No.
dated a bunch of people since him and like
Yeah.
before that. So yeah, it was a little bit of a weird character thing to feel like, oh yeah,
Right?
she just immediately trusts hot people. It's like, why? You were like a Black Ops tap. You should know
Yeah.
better than that.
Right? And she just kind of like accepts it. She just like
Yeah, yeah.
flicks her hair and is like, okay, you're right, I do that, but we're gonna trust her anyway. But she explains her ghosts to Garcia as best she can, and as bluntly as the ghosts have her do so, where she just kind of speaks her mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Garcia thinks it's a little fucking weird. And then they show her the base. They're like, yeah, these are the mechs that we use. And Garcia's like, I'm gonna help you out. I don't like Morrow. I'll feed you information. I'll keep them off your trail. All that good stuff. So we have a man on the inside. We love it.
Yep.
And then we get a little action from Eddie, who
A little
is
Eddie action.
a little Eddie action, as he does a little bit of scouting into the Salvation Gang, selling off some of his old parts and getting some intel. Uh, we also see that Morrow is taking the Bibi threat much more seriously. They've sent a different operative in, as opposed to our previous one who was in charge of like neighborhood relocating. And this new one, you can tell she's bad, or worse rather, because she wears all black, has a black bob and black sunglasses. I'm just like, you could not have made a more caricature evil
Like
character,
bar
and I
shades
love it.
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it, frankly. I think it's super fun. It communicates quickly. It's a little bit silly, and it's great. Um, our better than the worst Morrow agent texts Garcia to be like, I need your help, please. Something's going down because this new agent is kind of taking over her beat. And Garcia's like, it's my day off. Leave me alone. I am learning about superhero business. And we see that Morrow has staged an attack because they want to set up a situation in which Bibi like hurts someone, a civilian. So they have these like semi-invisible discs shooting laser beams, which Bibi then transforms to fight off. The Morrow's plan pretty much fails because they don't really. I'm getting ahead of myself. These discs are very difficult to fight, And when BB goes to take on a robot, she accidentally explodes it in her own family's restaurant, which is sad and tragic
Yeah.
because it's
Big
on
fire.
fire.
Big
Yeah.
fire. Right there.
She
Yeah.
immediately like gives herself away because she shouts "mom" and "dad" as she runs
Yeah.
in. But I
That's
appreciate
just
that.
sad, right? Because her mom was
Well, in the
outside. Oh, she
initial
shouts when
explosion, she
before.
says
Yeah,
"mom."
yeah, right.
Yeah,
When she goes in, it's only dad, because her mom does
yeah.
get out immediately.
Yeah, her mom comes stumbling out, but she has to use her powers to get in there to save her dad. We see another PTSD flashback in what a page that it was my favorite like spread in the entire book,
No,
which is this
you're talking about the
2-page
two-page spread
spread.
there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where she's trying to
Uh,
get him to save her
it's one of
dad,
the
and we
nicest
have these
sequences in the book.
flashbacks to her trying to save a civilian back in the war, and like the way that she couldn't save that civilian. And we have a really rad moment where she calls on the power of the dead Lucky, of her dead platoon, so that they can give her the power to what she hopes is save her family, but what unfortunately for her also means saving her. And that takes us to the end of issue 3. Rad. Resuming. Issue 4 picks up exactly where we left off, with the exploded storefront. Eddie and Garcia are right outside, and our dear friend BB comes floating out in like a very Magneto-y, surrounded by electricity way, as she can now fucking fly. Shout out. We love new powers emerging.
Importantly, also controlling the Moro robots to save
her dad,
the various people that were inside,
and
including
a
her
father.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she is taking control of these robots because as we saw with her mech before, she can use her electricity manipulation to control her mech. And this is like very much a bigger deal because this is overtaking a different robot. She saves her father. She runs away because our girl is broken on the inside.
Floats
away. Okay. A little bit of a gripe. The moment where she's floating away.
Yeah.
A little awkward.
Yeah.
A little awkward.
There should have been, especially like in that, but there should have been more of like a stream thing to it. Instead, we get like a thing of her floating up that looks a little weird because her hands are just out of her.
Yeah.
And then you just get her like all the way in the sky. There's not a good progression there either.
I feel like even if the floating panel was replaced by like a closer panel on her, she was looking over her shoulder, I'd be like, that would make sense. We just get this really awkward moment of just like, okay, full body, hands at side.
Yeah.
What are we looking at?
Every now and then the like panel to panel progression's a little weird. And this is one of, I think this is the most glaring example. This page is one that when I look at this page is just weird.
It's a little funk. Yeah. But in any case, we jump back to our freaky CEO, who is, picking up a call from the mayor and bullying the mayor of San Francisco.
Gonna talk about the like thumb drive in his neck.
Yeah. So he's got these like circuit tattoos that aren't tattoos.
Yeah, like he's got like circuitry.
Yeah. It's hard to tell what to make of them. Like I think they're like surface level
notable
things.
enough to make sure that we hit on.
The thing is, it doesn't like come up later.
No, well, it feels very much like, despite the fact that we're told to read volume 1 here in the reading order, but it feels very much like it's meant to be a 12-issue story, and it's not really like 2 6-issue stories. So I have a feeling we'll get stuff in whenever we get back to Dead Lucky.
Do we know if the Dead Lucky got a second volume yet?
It's 12. Yeah, it's 12 issues.
Okay, rad. Love it. But yeah, so we have his funky little moment. We have another moment between Garcia and the rep, where yet again, it's unclear if she's coming on to her or trying to employ her. Or both, yeah, why not? ¿Por qué no los dos? That would be a very weird power imbalance, Jay. She's willing to enact martial law over San Francisco with killer robots, but she will not engage in sexual activities with her employee. That's a step too far.
You don't know that the job offers to be her employee. They could be equals in the in the job if she takes
I
it. We
don't
don't
think
know.
people are allowed to hire their equals.
She might not be the one like offered. She might be the one sent out to like
Okay, all right, yeah,
recruit,
she's
and it's like,
scouting.
ah, you should
Okay,
work
fair
with me
enough.
because my job is so great, and you should also have it.
But yeah, they have a. I quite enjoyed their weird little relationship.
It's
I
like
thought
I
it was
sometimes
funny.
do. Sometimes I also think it because like, funnily enough, despite the fact that I feel like they should be less awkward and have better like their relationship felt much more forced to me, whereas the one between her and our
BB.
dead Lucky felt much more BB felt more I lost it for a second there, it
That's
came
alright.
back.
I
BB
got you.
felt much more natural to me, whereas this one felt more like I was like, I don't know that I buy that this is at there at all.
I did. The thing is, I think the reason that I buy it is because nothing happens. Like, it's just a weird, like, you're hot and I'm hot. We should work in an evil corporation together. Like, it all felt like in a very courting way, where I was like, okay, this is funny. I like this. I think that it would have felt more realistic, or I guess more like it might have happened if Garcia wasn't very staunchly opposed to Morrow, and like she
You have a better
didn't
dynamic if
show.
she's like staunchly opposed to Morrow but seems interested in the
Yeah,
rep.
yeah,
It doesn't really feel like that at all, outside of like those very specific moments that they want you to feel like she's attracted to the thing. Like in the rest of the scenes, it does not feel like she has any attraction towards the rep, and so
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's a
that's the
little
weird
on and
thing to me.
off.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but then we see that BB has somehow gone into like the in between. She's in like a little heaven world type situation, where all of the rest of the dead lucky are, and they are she's like talking in their speech bubble pattern, because Becca Carey does letter it on this book. When the robots and the ghosts talk, they have like pink outlines with pink letters, and we see that in this she is speaking in that in like a kind of bridge stuck between being dead and being alive way. Which I thought was a very nice touch for her to be doing in this scene, where she is kind of as much in that space as she will ever be in this book. Um, Quite like that. Shout out Becca Carey. Then we get a little montage of Morrow doing their full ass takeover of like enacting a curfew. They're searching for members of the Salvation Gang and doing their best to be as evil as possible. Like being mean to civilians and the such.
Data bad
Our
guys, making
they
that very clear.
you better believe they're the bad guys. Uh, the dead lucky continue to I'm going to say in quotes talk to BB, because what they're doing is essentially parodying her own words back to her from when they were all alive together, in this scene at least. um, they're just reminding her of what she said about like the people that you don't save and how they stay with you even though the people that you save kind of blur out over time. So kind of calling her out for not being able to let them go, and it very much works on her. We get a flashback to her in the war echoing these sentiments to them, or saying what would then be echoed to her, whatever a
It's like
pre-echo
inverted
is.
of like we hear it from
Yeah,
them and then we find out that it's her
yeah,
own
yeah,
words
yeah. Which I
in
quite
this
liked.
scene that
I
she said to
really
yeah.
liked the sequence in the
I think this worked quite well. Yeah,
in the like after in between life area. I think it
yeah,
was like BB's strongest characterization.
yeah.
Because
I think they tried to do a few things. I think the most successful was with the like guilt of wanting to be dead. Like I think that was the thing that worked the best out of like
agreed.
the few kind of things they wanted to play there. Like I again, we'll talk about more when it happens. But like I think this works better than like the having to abandon Eddie
Yes.
thing, where it's
Yeah.
like I don't know if that was as strong, but
Agreed.
this was quite good.
But yeah, I really like this, and she's like, okay, well, if you're with me, then you're with me. We're all gonna punch at once, all
Yeah.
in, all the time, all fists, all hands every time,
Get
whatever it
these
is.
hands.
Catch all these hands. Catch all 8 hands of the dead lucky.
Yeah.
Uh, and she's like, and we're gonna go save our home. Radical. Uh, Eddie is almost arrested, and then Garcia saves him, even though she's been fired at this point. I believe. I think she got fired in the interim. Uh, so she's not a cop anymore. BB comes back and she is ready to fight off Morrow. She's in her Dead Lucky suit. She's vibing, notably without her mech. And she sends the Dead Lucky into all of these Morrow mechs, which I thought, okay, I want to talk about her powers real quick, and then we'll blast through plot because, like, her powers, I really like conceptually. I feel like this fight and the like big fight at the end when she's like specifically putting the platoon members into things is it at its strongest. Like that's what I think is the cool part of her powers.
Yeah, I think that's like I think weirdly, if you'll bear with me here, not
Yeah,
just to be contrarian, but I have to be contrarian. I think I actually dislike them conceptually, but I like them when she's
maybe
like
that's what I'm
specifically
trying to
doing them.
say. Yeah.
And what I'm and the reason for that is like I don't know the idea of like ghosts or electricity conceptually is something that I'd immediately be like, yes, that makes sense
Well,
that she has like electric powers because of like past lives being with her. I don't know that like I'd immediately think that that works, but when it is like, oh, it's possession, like that
mhm.
makes more sense. Like,
Let me
yeah,
say this. I don't think that
say
they're actually her platoon mates. I think it's her trauma. Like she even at one point says, like, I think in the scene in the graveyard, she's like, "You're all just trauma." Like I think that it's literally just how she manifests this. Like that's why they parrot her words back to her because they're dead. They're not here.
I think that's a fair vibe. There is like an interesting thing that comes up then when I kind of question why, but I do think that,
That's fair.
that's a very solid like guess. Is like yeah, that I could certainly see that being the reveal. But also then like why does her electric powers like manifest in anything? But maybe then it's just a bit because like other people also don't see them when she's conjuring them. So like
Hmm.
then are they even being conjured? I don't know. I have questions if they're not some
Yes.
sort of
Yeah.
ghost. I have questions, but I think that's a super fair
Yeah,
theory.
I
Um,
really like the taking these like manifestations of her platoon mates and putting them into robots that she can then kind of command like a platoon. I think it's we've talked. I don't think ever on pod, but we've talked about this with or rather, you have told me because I am delighted to hear anytime you've talked about this with the Green Lanterns. The way that they'll
hmm.
like each character will lean into their character with the constructs that they create.
It is funny. This is somewhat reminiscent of Jon Stewart constantly making soldier constructs for like his fallen soldiers and just be like, I
Mhm.
need to. I love it about Jon. He's just like I'm just gonna make people like everybody. Like you have Hal constantly making like swords and
And
like
airplanes,
guns and airplanes, yeah. And then you have like Kyle doing all this creative
his
shit,
goofy
and
shit.
Jon is like, I will conjure a gun for myself, and then just a bunch of people, and then there's a bunch of me, and we outnumber you now.
Which, like, frankly, rad as hell.
Oh,
But yeah, I think
he made the
it's
Justice League. Well, not to get too sidetracked, he made the Justice League at one point, which was just sick.
yeah, and that
Okay,
like broke something in the DC universe, didn't it?
no, that's when he conjured up a whole. He created a solar system, and that was a
Okay,
whole big
okay.
thing. Anyway,
But
let's not get way
with
too
this, I
sidetracked here.
think specifically what I like about it, and what it harkens back to me with the Green Lanterns, is I like that her powers are able to manifest in a way that plays to her strengths as a character outside of her powers. Like, presumably, she was a really good captain to be like a Black Ops captain.
One would hope.
One would hope. I mean, her entire platoon died. So, like, how good
Oh,
could she be? Just kidding,
right.
to be clear. What?
I mean, I think if you're the like captain, you're supposed to die with the platoon, right? So you know,
Well, she wished she did. Uh,
clearly a shitty captain. Fuck you. You should hate yourself.
oh, no, you're making me feel so sad for her, because I do feel very sad for her. But,
I
like,
do. I do
clearly,
too.
her, like, it's okay. Jay hates when I do this, but when I'm like, okay, clearly Nightwing's real power is the friends he made along the way, and it's like the parts of your personality that are then enhanced by whatever power you do. I think is the best like way to give a character powers. It's like okay, this part of you that is already good and competent now has superpowers that make it manifest in that way. Um, in any case, she takes on these fuckers. She's basically going one-man army. Well, four-man army against the entirety of Morrow, who have occupied the entirety of San Francisco. Um, and then she basically does it. Like she not like she doesn't defeat them, but she makes it all the way into San Francisco, even though they're all looking for her and trying to kill her. And she just floats up next to Eddie's window, which great entrance. We love to see it. She and Georgia have a heart to heart about what Morrow's up to because Georgia also works at Morrow. She's a PR girly. Um,
Weird.
it's
Weird
very
that she's
weird.
so chill with it.
It's
Not
weird that
gonna
she's
lie.
so chill with it. And BB is like, okay, well, I can't fight Morrow alone. I need an army. So, boom, issue ender. She's approached the Salvation Gang. She's like, we both love San Francisco and hate Morrow. Let's team up. Uh, taking us right into
I
issue 5.
get, but like also conceptually having her join forces with like the essentially like radical, potentially like terrorist organization is like,
It's a
interesting
little
call.
rough. It's a little rough.
Yeah.
Like, I think the way that it works out is the best way it could have worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not my favorite move. Uh, Especially because I feel like one of the things that, like, as an overall thing with this book that I had is I don't love the way that BB relates to a lot of other characters. Like her relationships are not the thing in this book that are like my favorite thing. You know?
Weirdly outside of her relationships to her potentially conjured up fake.
Exactly. Like her
platoon.
platoon
Yeah.
and her parents. I love them. But like the
Like
important
her
relationships.
relationship with Officer Garcia too. I actually think that had a solid little special.
The thing is, I feel like it's not important enough in
That's
the
fair.
book
That's fair.
for it to
That's
like
fair.
her relationship
I did not
to
like.
Eddie.
I did not like her
is-
relationship with Eddie.
Yeah.
I was like,
which is like really at the heart of the whole thing is her relationship to Eddie.
just like it's one of those. Maybe it is because it just hits too close up. It's like you can't just do that in the book and act like it's fine. Like it's.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I'm like, you can't just call him your ex. Like, if you're still thinking of him as your ex,
Yeah, I think that's
That's
the worst thing
weird.
too, is because he's introduced before we even see him just as like her ex, and that makes it so. It's not like they went like, oh, look, here's her best friend, and then dramatic reveal. They're actually exes, and maybe the
Mhm.
girlfriend has some resentment. It's just like, no, put X thing right up front and then pretend like it doesn't matter. It's like,
Exactly. Yeah. Um,
oh,
but I don't remember why I was saying that. Um, oh,
we're
but
going
with
into yeah.
her like relationships already not being my favorite thing, the the teaming up with the gang then is very like, what's going on, kid? They're blowing things up and like making things bad. You were fighting them before, like, and they don't have like a redeeming quality before this. It's like, why do you think they love San Francisco? They are blowing it up. Uh,
We even get the background of like this isn't like people who were like driven like this is like criminals using this as an
yeah,
excuse to like get to do the shit they want. Like this is
yeah,
not like a good-hearted organization that had to go violent. Like they're not built up as like this redeemable
no, yeah.
misguided group at all.
So it feels very weird
Yeah.
for her to be like, yes, let's go to them. And then it doesn't even really end up being the boon that it was set up to be.
But why do you start telling us about that?
Yes. So we get a whole newscast thing that shows us the two sides of what now feels like a kind of multi-day affair, where it's like, okay, she's teamed up with the Salvation. I just said the Salvation Army, the Salvation Gang. Look, it's Christmas time,
Yeah.
and people are mad about Morrow, and people like Electricity Girl because she doesn't have a name yet. Then we see her going full commander, which I do like. I like the idea that she got an army of actual people who she could then command like a platoon. I just don't like that the people that she got were terrorists.
Yeah. But then we get
Then we
who
get
comes
our
in
boy
there?
Shift.
Still has the best design in the Massiverse.
He really does. It's so good. I
Though,
love.
interestingly,
bloody
one of the
little crop
assassins
top.
introduced with him, I think, rivals him. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about yet, but there's one that I really enjoy.
Talking about the Flamey Boy.
I'm talking about Pyro, yeah. I really like
Pyro.
Pyro's design too. Shift
Pyro.
and Pyro, man.
I love the villain designs in these
The
books.
villain designs they go so hard.
It's
And I
one of
think it's
those
because they're
things.
allowed to have a little bit more like different like look at Shift, like
Mhm.
he has these different colors and textures. It's not like, oh, he gets like one color and one bright color and all poly like
Yeah.
which I think is a decent vibe for like the heroes and look,
Oh
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
the villains are allowed to like really get designed in a way
Mhm.
that looks really, really cool.
Yes. Like they had fun with the villain designs. Uh
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, Shift has been hired by the Salvation Gang to like merc with them, essentially. They're like, we want to march on Morrow. Turns out Shift hates Morrow. Context I feel I should have, but don't, right?
I think it's more the vibe of like he doesn't want people getting in the way of him doing what he wants to do. Like that, I think I
He's
think it,
not in San Francisco.
I think the vibe is he's everywhere.
I mean, sure. Fair enough. I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
don't think we were supposed to like. I get the vibe if you were like, oh, I feel like maybe there like this
if you're
feels like.
bringing Shift in, I want to know why Shift is
No,
there, you
no,
know?
that's super fair. I'm just saying, I certainly don't think we're like missing something that
That's
it
fair.
is
But I
set
do
up
want
to
to
be.
use that to talk about like my final gripe with the book, which is I feel like there are a few things in here that feel like they should have context that don't feel like super volume one y. Like I think we're kind of thrown into the book. We don't see them being like, oh, we should make like we don't know why she made a mech in the first place. Like we don't see that conceptualizing. It's just kind of like I feel like we started at issue two, you know?
Weirdly, the first two issues also aren't like doing so much that I feel like, oh, those are like I feel like you very much could have introduced what needed to be introduced
Yeah.
in those issues without like derailing the story. Like I guess my thing is I don't think we started too late. I think we just started wrong, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Like I feel like a lot of the stuff that comes up is not like even the her like whole deal like we don't like the I think we kind of know that the platoon died in a tank explosion or like the tank was thrown over and they died there.
It's certainly mentioned multiple times. She also I think calls the mechs her mech a tank at some points as
One of
like
them
a
is. One of them is called
thing.
Tanky.
Yeah.
But that's like
No,
because
no,
that's
no,
one
not
of
like the go like she calls I think like at one point she refers to the mech as her tank in a way to like parallel
yes,
the
yeah.
tank thing.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
that first fight when the RPG hits her, she's like, "My tank's been blown over
Yeah,
before, and
that's
I
the
don't
one.
like when that happens." Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
but
I
like,
knew it was there.
I
Couldn't
feel
remember the exact
like
thing.
it. This book could have used more like I don't know, on the page, like this is how we got here stuff. Because I don't think that it was so. I don't think that it needed to be so dense that we didn't have room for that. You know what I mean?
I think funnily enough it's because they leaned into the like talking to herself as their captioning strategy, which allowed them to explain a lot of things we didn't necessarily need explanations for, but like it
Mhm.
would have been weird if she was explaining to them things that they should know
Yeah.
already, and thus like that wasn't there. So we got
Hmm.
explanation on like different things than maybe what we wanted explanations for,
Yeah,
if
and it
that
wasn't
makes sense.
like also I don't think it was the most engaging way to get that information with her
I agree.
just kind of like monologuing it. Like as opposed to seeing it like if we instead had a page that's like like I really liked all of the flashbacks. I think that they gave good characterization on BB that we that you struggle to see in her like post coming home PTSD ridden self. Um so like I really wish we had more flashback or more like personality driven explanations of things. Um and Shift kind of fits into that puzzle where it's like I feel like I want to know why Shift is here, uh, which is how I bring that back to
I
that.
think he
Uh,
adds something.
he specifically says it's because he hates Morrow.
Yeah. No,
Like
I
when
said I
they
think he
just,
adds something to the story at this point. Like I think
uh,
the story becomes stronger once he's in it. Like I
I
think he
agree, but I wish I
yeah.
knew why he was there.
No, I agree. I'm just saying I do
Yeah,
think his inclusion like made the ending better. You know,
Agreed.
like
He makes
yeah,
everything better. This is
he
a
does.
Shift fan account now.
It
Uh,
is. He is. You know,
we are
don't
the
at me.
Green
He is the
Circle
best character
guys.
in the Massiverse.
That's a reference to the Black Circle guys from never mind, from Radiant Black. But yeah, so he has arrived. She's working with this Simpson or something, Winston. Sorry, like the kind of tech person for the Salvation Gang to get schematics and all that good stuff. And she tells everyone to like say their goodbyes because they're going to war. They might not wake up tomorrow. She is a heart to heart with Eddie about a gun that he has made because even if he can't be in the battlefield, he wants to be able to help protect her.
This is the weird moment. This is the weird moment where
Yeah,
she says to him, "Do you know how in love with you I was? How much I love you now?" And then he says, "Yeah, I know. I feel the same way, right?" And
yeah.
they hug. And it's like,
And like, I
I'm
get
sorry,
what they're
what? You
going
both
for
have other
here.
romances right now. This is a little weird.
I get what they're going for with like the I was in love with you, like those were very real feelings, and like I love you. Like those are two very different
Yeah, but
types of
putting them
love
in the
feelings.
same statement like
It's
that makes
it's
it
very
feel
weird.
like you are like, you know
Like
how in love with you I was. And like, why would you say you know how in love with you I was instead of just saying like, you know I still love you or something like you know, like a more like there's probably a better way to word that.
or
But
like
like,
apologizing and then saying I love
yeah,
you or something.
yeah.
Uh yeah, funky. It's an odd moment. But he gives her a gun, which is sweet. She goes to see her parents, who we love, Chef's Kiss. She totally bones Officer Garcia, which we love, Chef's Kiss. Um, and Shift calls her out for having a hickey, which we love, Chef's Kiss. We love Shift. Um,
Shift it just immediately has so much presence in this book, and it's
right?
fantastic.
He's so good. Like he's low key such a shitlord, and I love him for it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm happy to see even without Kyle Higgins, he's still just like
mhm,
his dialogue is written just as well. Like he's still
yeah.
feels exactly the same with a different writer writing him,
Well,
and
Cherish Chen
that's
did him
nice.
really well in Radiant Red.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just too powerful to be written poorly. We love Shift. Like he's such a good. We say this with Radiant
So
Black a lot. Like
interestingly,
the
is he
concept.
the character that appears in the most series in the Massiverse?
Yes,
Right.
certainly. Yeah.
Easily, right?
Oh yeah. Easy
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Um, we say this about Radiant Black a lot. We've stopped saying it as much because Volume 3 was really phenomenal. But like that this concept of like it's not a reinvention of the wheel, it's just a really good wheel, and he's just a really good mercenary. Like that's such a good
I love a
mercenary
good merc.
character.
I
It's
love
a
a good
good
merc.
merc
Like it's
where it's
great.
like, oh, he's gonna be like kind of sassy. He's there for the money. Like his motivations are very selfish. Like they
And even
do
like
all
when
of
you
those
have
things.
that like and I think this is like such a good character to bounce off because like even this like badass character who most people would be scared to give lip to, it's like no, he's this badass assassin. So like
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Like he's just gonna say shit to her and not care,
exactly.
despite the fact that most people wouldn't talk to her like that, and that's
Right?
great.
It's great. Shift is phenomenal. He's honestly the highlight of the book because he's so great. I love
But
Shift.
yeah, like that might be why I enjoy issues 4 and 5 like I think the most, and it's just because like oh Shift's here
He's
now.
there. We're having a
Like
good time.
yeah,
But she's trying to do her captainy thing. She's like got a battle plan or like a mission log or whatever. She a debrief doc or something. Uh, and then boom, warehouse
Ikobo,
explodes.
Ikobo.
The Morrow folks have found where they were staying, and instead of getting to go to war on their terms, war has come to them. They all mask up. She starts doing her battlefield commands. We see that sick design for
Bro,
Pyro. Yeah. And the dude in the green jacket, we met him in volume 3, didn't we? I don't remember
I
who
think
he is,
so. Yeah,
though. Yeah.
yeah.
He
He was
didn't get to
one
do
of
much
them.
here, but I remember that we met him and he was there.
Yeah. Wasn't he like the close one, like the one who was essentially like the guy in the chair for most of it, right? He was like
Yeah, is he like the
like the
crypto
one who's
bro?
only gonna escape with that guy, and he's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
like
yeah,
fuck the
yeah.
rest of them
Yeah.
over. Like I think that seems to be like his boy for whatever reason. Like
Yes,
he's like
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
And
Pyro
Pyro
looking
is so
sick
fucking
as
cool.
hell.
He has like the like Magic the Gathering looking like fire symbol on his face that lights with flames in addition to his
Yeah.
hand.
Super,
Sick.
super rad.
Fucking
And his
love it.
billowing
And he's
little
got a
cloak
cloak.
moment. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we love a cloak moment. But yeah, we
I
get
love that man.
into a whole bunch of fighting. We see that along with bringing more mercs and his friends, our boy Shift has also brought 3 giant mechs for our pal the Dead Lucky to command. She puts her friends into those, and she gets to command them on the battlefield as well, which I think is really fun to see her do. Shift goes off to find the person like directing the drones for Morrow, and it gets to have a spooky little assassin moment, and that's the lady in the sunglasses, our even worse Morrow agent. Um, yeah, big battle, big battle. I'm bummed we don't get to see more of Shift's fight. We basically get one shot of him fighting her, and then we see that he's won. I'm like, no, more Shift. Give us
Yeah,
more.
like even again, I think the action's much better in this issue and the next issue,
Mhm.
but I don't know if they're always making the best use of their action pages, like in terms of like
Agreed.
what's
Yeah.
getting focused. I think there's a slight like roughness sometimes to what they decide to
Mhm.
give page space to in the action scenes. Um,
Agreed.
but
But we see that our dear captain understands the importance of teamwork. I got ahead of myself a little. She's gonna have the retreat in the next issue, but we see that she is left without a plan because, as it turns out, one of the members of or I guess the leader, kind of the Salvation Gang, had actually sold them out. He told Morrow where they were. So her plan goes up in flames. So it's like, okay, at least she's not like actually going to war alongside these guys, which is what I'm saying, kind of best case scenario with her
really, the
teaming
guy
up with
who
them.
double crossed them is still getting arrested. His
Yes,
deal
that's
did
very
not
good too. Yeah.
work out for him.
No, it
And
does not.
Shift is very funnily enough just being like, didn't work out for this guy. Fuck him.
Which we love to see. Shift the best still. But that takes us to the end of the issue where they are definitely outgunned, outmanned, out something outplanned. Isn't that a thing? Maybe?
Outplanned. I thought you would go for outflanked there for a second. I don't know if that's what
No,
you were
there's like a
going
little
for.
turn of phrase that's like outmanned, outplanned, out something, whatever. It'll come to me eventually.
Outsanded.
Outsanded, dude.
Yeah.
Um, our final issue, issue 6, opens
Yeah,
on
we
a
get to the scene that
flashback.
we've been talking about ahead of time
Yeah,
repeatedly.
where Eddie and BB break up because she has to go on a mission, and he like can't deal with it, which is so valid because she can't like talk to him really when she's on
Like,
these deadly missions.
fact is that until this moment, their like being exes did not matter,
Yeah,
and it's like it is too late in issue 6 to make that matter. I feel like
and it doesn't even matter. Like it,
like I'll talk about it when we get there, but
yeah.
there's the reason that it's happening like this, and we'll get there shortly. But
I
like I agree
guess.
with you, it
I
still
feel
doesn't really
like
matter.
best friend works just as well.
It does, but that's the reason, and we'll get there. But keep going.
Yes,
We don't
yes,
need to
yes.
do it now because it makes more sense to
Exactly, yeah.
do it when we get there.
Um, so the reporter from the start of the previous issue is still here, and he's live streaming like a goofus. And we see that
I wanted that
Shift,
man bitch slapped this entire fucking
right?
Issue.
He gets a little
I was like,
shot. So like
can
at least
Shift
that.
like unite with him so that he will just like punch this man in the face?
Unfortunately, not because Shift is dipping. He's like, it was not on my bingo card for them to come and fuck with us at the warehouse, so I'm out.
Like, not my
He
mission anymore. Like, this
exactly
is what we were supposed to be doing.
the
So
most not my circus, not my monkeys thing I have seen in my life. He's like, oh,
yeah.
actually, we are going to use our super suits to leave.
But
Goodbye.
there's a thing with it's actually Pyre, not Pyro. Sorry, got it
Yes.
slightly wrong. There's an interesting moment with Pyre that I'm hoping kind of
Right?
gets followed up on. I'm hoping in like the Shift one shot. Like, I'm guessing that's maybe going to be a confrontation there, which might just make the
Mm-hmm.
Shift one shot my favorite thing in the Massiverse. But like, there's a moment where it seems like Pyre doesn't want to go and then is like
Mm-hmm.
ordered to go by Shift, and it's a nice little thing.
Which could be platoon person. I think we see that Ghost died before the others did. Could be Ghost, but actual Ghost.
There's
That's my
that.
little theory.
Mm,
That's my little theory, but like I don't know, no memories or something,
I
something dumb
like it.
like
I
that.
like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I'm
Um,
here for it.
But yeah, Rip, the mercenaries have left, and the dead Lucky decides it is time to fucking dip. She's like, nope, we gotta retreat, tactical. What's your phrase when we're gaming and we're running
Tactically retreat
away?
like a man.
Tactically retreat like a man. So they tactically retreat like a man because there's this like new flying contraption that is way too outgunned
Yeah.
for them. The reporter gets shot. Love to see it. Not normally, to be clear. This guy's just very annoying. Um,
The fucking worst.
the
Like
fucking
he is
worst.
pure TikToker core, and it's
Yeah.
like, please somebody beat him.
Somebody kick him in the nards. But she uses her delightful. Okay, so it's Ghost, Tanky. Damn it, where's the other one? Oh my
I still
god,
not
no.
remember the other one's name.
I'm
But
so mad. I was like, it's definitely Spaceman.
yeah.
Yeah, but there's like the giant hole in the warehouse from where the soldiers blew up the place, and so she uses her giant mechs to like hold the gap so that they can regroup a little bit. She tries chit chatting with them all. We learn that Winston is still alive. She reveals who she is on camera because the stupid reporter, despite her telling him to turn it the fuck off because he's revealing their literal position, is still live streaming. Um,
The worst.
the
Like we
worst.
get this series of interactions that is just her continually telling him to stop and him just then once again being streaming. And I'm like, how many times are they gonna play
It's
this?
like,
It is just
girl,
pissing me off
girl,
more
just
each
punch him.
time.
Just punch him. And he
Would
doesn't
not
really
blame
get
you.
comeuppance, which is very rude.
No.
Um, yeah, they are fully outgunned, but of course, our captain has a plan. She has the Salvation Gang people who were not shitty, kind of get themselves out. Um, she leaves the reporter behind because he sucks, and she goes out to surrender essentially. Or not surrender, but like a kind of sacrifice herself.
Yeah, she importantly
Yeah.
says she's not there to
Yes.
surrender.
I
Yeah.
realized after, I'm like, no, no, she goes out to die because she wants to die. And she's going to die so that these people can escape. And she'll finally get lucky and die. Even though she got
Yeah.
lucky the night before with Officer Garcia. um, too late for dabbing. Okay, so
Right.
she is fully outgunned. This like new contraption is definitely going to blow her right the fuck up. And then her original mech appears and starts throwing hands. Eddie is at the controls. He doesn't explain how, but he says he finally found a way to power it without her, which is neat. Perhaps a Radiant will be revealed to be involved somehow. Who knows? Not like a Radiant itself, but like power with a Radiant suit. I just punched my mic. Look, gang is a little late. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
he
he pilots
jumps
this
and
thing.
does like a big anime fist off with this hovercraft thing. It explodes. Uh-oh. Eddie's dead. Rip to the boy.
And this is why I think the romance
She
thing
has
was
her little
there, and
Super Saiyan
especially
moment
Quetta at
because
the
every
front.
time someone almost dies, she's like, "Ugh, lightning." Pah. we have lost the plot a little, and she like really becomes so emotional and horrifying that it actually scares off most of the.
Yeah, importantly, the reason she's losing her mind here is because she can't see him despite being able to see a bunch of
Yes,
people who have died. And then importantly here we see her, I think for the first time, seeing more than three people. So
I think
it
she
is
saw. Did she see more than three people in the graveyard?
kind of, yes. But
Kind
that
of.
was weird because she was like fully seeing the three of them and then there were
Hmm.
other silhouettes. Where it was like this is in the real world where the normal three are silhouettes, and
Hmm.
then there's also three more silhouettes here.
Yes.
Um, but she's
Yeah.
upset that she can't see Eddie.
Yeah. So she has fully scared off the enemy troops, and she is. I want to punch him. She's still being live streamed by the man, um, which means the CEO sees what's happening. Um, she's alone on the battlefield. The CEO confronts her, and then we get a little flash forward because she's like, "Fuck you, man. My best friend is dead." And they have a strategic parlay, I suppose. She's kind of like defeated emotionally after Eddie's death and like doesn't have that fight in her anymore after she scared everybody off.
I got
And
that dog in her anymore, man.
no, that dog went to the farm. Um,
That dog got put down.
that dog got put down by the death of her friend and possibly love, but not anymore. Well, not anymore because he's dead. But we cut to, we cut to the little flash forward, and we see that uh, um, the interaction between the two of them ended in them striking a deal wherein the Salvation Gang gets like amnesty, not amnesty. What's the word for it? They get like forgiven. They get
And
pardoned. That's the one. That's in the military state.
immunity.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
If they like decide to turn their lives around, and the war ends
Yay,
now.
terrorists go free.
It's a weird one. The Salvation Gang is a weird one. And the war ends, so like civilians are safe again. And the way that she achieves this, yeah, the way that she achieves this is by using massive bargaining chip of herself. The dead Lucky is now allied with Morrow, and she dubs herself and her powers the dead Lucky officially. But then we see, it's a plot twist. Her, Garcia, and Georgia, all fraught about Morrow, have teamed up and they're going to take Morrow down from the inside.
Volume also a little weird that like Eddie's girlfriend is just now like a part of their unit.
Yeah. But that's the dead Lucky. Jay, overall, how'd you feel?
Yeah. It's an interesting one for me because there's a lot I like about it. I mostly like the last two issues for the most part. Like I think that it does feel like this big, climax with a lot of cool stuff going on and this like big emotional release and all that, which is great. A lot of setup is a little wonky again, like stuff like working with a terrorist organization, that big fight, and then like she literally like the basically entire resolution of the book is I'm going to work with one terrorist organization because this like company is even worse, and then the resolution from that becomes I'm going to join them, yes, to take them down from the inside. But it's a very interesting thing.
It's a little funky.
I'm going to keep aligning with these great, but yeah, and then like there's things like the action sequences being I think a little bit weird at times, but then they have some great moments in there, so it's a very like finding its footing, I think, type thing. So we'll see how it goes from there. But we did get some more shift, which is always great. And I think I said I don't know if I conceptually love her powers. Conceptually as a whole, I like the book a lot. I think in general, but yeah, I think that's where I'm at. It's a hard one to put my finger on like fully. But how do you feel?
Yeah, I think that I'm in kind of a similar boat to you where I like what the book has going on. I don't always love the way that they execute it. Like I think that we got a lot of space in this book. Like it's such a dense book. It feels like a long read, but I feel like the payoff of that long read is a lot of like plot payoff as opposed to like emotional payoff. So like I feel like BB is not in a demonstrably different place at the end of the series as she is at the start, other than like the death of Eddie. Like I don't feel like she really went on a journey with her ghosts or anything. Like she has kind of a moment where she's like, I can't let you go, so we're gonna work together and save the city. But that didn't feel like a really cathartic moment because she still hasn't let them go, which is like clearly the deeper issue. Yeah. So I feel like I don't love the overall structure of the first volume.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think structurally it's a little odd. But yeah, it's interesting.
I really like the art. Like we touched on the action scenes. I really like the style of the artist.
That's what I am too. I really like
I also love the Dead Lucky's design. It's so cool.
Yeah, I just have to show because like the fact that the first name is literally French threw me off. I'm like, I think French's art style is like it's this thing where it still really fits into the Massiverse, but it has
Hmm.
a very unique, especially like out of in civilian identities, like it has a very
Right.
unique look like for the civilian people. But yeah, I
Hmm.
think like sometimes the panel to panel stuff of it is a little bit
Exactly. The
weird. But I always think
sequentials of
like
it
the
all.
art, yeah, the art like itself, like if you take any still or pinup or anything out of it, like
Hmm.
it's very strong. I feel like, but
Oh
yeah.
yeah, super duper like that. And Becca Carey always knocking it out of the park.
It felt like Beck Carey like was experimenting with certain things. Like there were a few things where it's like sometimes because of the amount of bubbles, she would have like a tail go behind something and then
I
like pop
liked it.
out.
I feel like I noticed that a couple times. And I was like, "Ooh, that's cute."
Yeah, I don't know. I think like because of that, like her talking to herself, and stuff, there was just a lot going on with the lettering and the amount of lettering on
Hmm.
pages. So sometimes I think sometimes I got like,
I think that's why I'm saying she knocked it out of the park because there's
yeah,
just paragraphs, and
no,
she does a
super fair.
really good job
I,
with
I mean, I think Becky
not.
Carey did a good job.
Yeah,
There was just some stuff
yeah.
because I think of the unique lettering challenge that this
Hmm.
presented. Becky Carey is a great letterer, but
Great
yeah, it
letter.
was just interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, that's the Dead
um,
Lucky. Today is Saturday, dear listeners, which means that this morning we had a. Oh, wait, no, we didn't because it's holiday weekend. I'm sorry, I flubbed that. Next Saturday, we'll have a Marvel Rival stream in the morning for you,
yeah,
and a full episode next Saturday because this past Wednesday was Christmas. Um, am I a week? Am I a week off?
you were correct in saying this
This
coming
coming
Saturday will be an
Wednesday.
episode, but this
Yes,
also this coming Wednesday will
you're
be
right. Will be
the
Christmas, and
the
we'll be
Christmas
doing a
special.
bonus
Yeah,
episode ranking holiday specials uh, on a beautiful tier list, a la our Halloween specials. So be
which
sure to
Katie has
tune
still
in.
not gotten me the list for. As we get very close to the record date.
In my defense, this book was very long. I was like, I'll get it done after I read it. And then I was already half an hour late. My bad. Oops. Anyway,
In any case, we hope to see you next week, Comic Geeks.